flaunting wealth most of us could never imagine. Designer handbags, sprawling mansions, private jets, all part of the carefully curated fantasy.
I think you got it.
Yes.
These weren't just catfights over seating arrangements. These were crimes. Betrayals so vicious they destroyed lives. Lies so venomous they ended careers. Welcome to the underbelly of reality television, where the price of fame came with federal prison sentences, shattered reputations, and irreparable damage. This is what they don't want you to remember. Scandal 1. Teresa and Joe Giudice. Let's start with the woman who set the blueprint for Real Housewives' criminal behavior, Teresa Giudice. You know her, the table flipper, the cookbook author, the woman who called Danielle Staub a prostitution whore while hurling furniture across an expensive restaurant. But what the cameras didn't show you in those early seasons was the massive financial fraud happening behind the scenes. For nearly a decade, from 2001 to 2008, Teresa and her husband Joe Giudice weren't just living beyond their means. They were committing systematic fraud to get there. They submitted fake W-2 forms, fabricated pay stubs, lied about employment, and falsely inflated their income to banks. Teresa claimed she was an executive assistant, making enough to qualify for a $121,500 mortgage. She wasn't employed at all. She lied. On another loan application for $361,250, she stated she was a realtor earning $15,000 monthly. Another complete fabrication. The scheme was brazen. They defrauded multiple banks out of millions, obtaining mortgages and loans they had absolutely no intention of properly repaying. And when their house of cards started crumbling, they filed for bankruptcy in 2009, then had the audacity to hide assets, conceal income from Real Housewives, and lie under oath about their finances. Judge Esther Salas wasn't having it. She called them out for their confusion and the extraordinary amount of work that went into hiding their assets, saying, "It's as if you thumb your nose at this court." In March 2014, both pleaded guilty to 41 counts of fraud. 41 counts. Bank fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, bankruptcy fraud, tax fraud. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was calculated, deliberate criminal behavior spanning years. Teresa was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison. Joe got 41 months. And here's the kicker. They were allowed to stagger their sentences so one parent could always be with their 4 daughters. Such consideration for convicted felons. Teresa served 11 months at FPC Danbury in Connecticut, released just before Christmas 2015. She returned to Real Housewives, wrote a memoir about her time behind bars, and turned her felony conviction into a redemption storyline. Meanwhile, Joe served his sentence, was released in 2019, then was immediately deported to Italy because, surprise, he never bothered to become a U.S. citizen despite living here since he was 1 year old. Their marriage ended in divorce in 2020. But Teresa's still on the show, still making money, still acting like the victim in a situation entirely of her own making. The Giudices defrauded banks out of $5 million over 10 years. And Teresa spent less than a year behind bars. That's the message Bravo sent. Commit massive fraud, serve minimal time, return to television, profit. Scandal 2. Jen Shah. If you thought Teresa's crimes were bad, buckle up for Jen Shah. This Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star didn't just cheat some banks. She systematically preyed on vulnerable elderly people for nearly a decade, destroying lives and draining life savings while cameras filmed her flaunting the blood money. From 2012 until her arrest in March 2021, Jen Shah ran a nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme so calculated, so vicious, that federal prosecutors called her the most culpable person charged in this case. Her scheme was simple: sell worthless business services to people who could least afford to lose money. She targeted the elderly, the vulnerable, people who didn't even own computers but were sold website design packages. People in their 70s and 80s were told they'd achieve financial independence through business coaching that was completely valueless. The victims' stories are heartbreaking. One 75-year-old retiree lost $47,000. Another victim became homeless after Shah's team drained him. A widow in her mid-70s was defrauded out of nearly $10,000 for a computer skills course that promised business success but delivered nothing. And even after she realized it was a scam and got her attorney involved, Shah's telemarketers continued harassing her. The psychological damage was immense. Shah and her co-conspirators called these human beings leads, not people, not victims. Leads, commodities to be bought, sold, and exploited until their bank accounts were empty and their credit cards maxed out. Federal prosecutors revealed that Shah often joked about the victims' suffering in text messages with her team. She laughed about destroying elderly people's lives. When the Federal Trade Commission investigated, when dozens of her co-conspirators were arrested and convicted, did Jen Shah stop? No. She doubled down. She hid assets, moved operations overseas, paid people in cash, ordered the deletion of incriminating evidence, put businesses in other people's names, and lied. She wasn't ignorant. She was deliberate. And what was she doing with all this stolen money? Funding her lavish Real Housewives lifestyle, the designer clothes, the jewelry, the parties, the Shah Squad. It was all built on the backs of elderly people who lost their retirement savings. She spent $50,000 per month while victims struggled to survive. In July 2022, just days before her trial, Shah changed her plea to guilty. She had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. In January 2023, she was sentenced to 78 months in federal prison. She was ordered to forfeit $6.5 million, pay over $6.6 million in restitution, and surrender luxury items including 78 counterfeit designer goods. Even her luxury items were fake. She served her time at FPC Bryan in Texas, the same prison where Ghislaine Maxwell and Elizabeth Holmes are incarcerated, and was released early in December 2025 after serving roughly 3 years. 3 years for destroying hundreds of lives over a decade. The justice system failed her victims spectacularly. But here's what really twists the knife. Shah used her platform on Real Housewives to proclaim her innocence. Her Season 2 tagline? "The only thing I'm guilty of is being Shah-mazing." She sold merchandise claiming her innocence. She profited from the scandal while her victims suffered. Bravo filmed it all, turned it into entertainment, and got an Emmy nomination for the season documenting her downfall. Scandal 3. Tom Girardi. Tom Girardi was supposed to be one of the good guys. For at least a decade, from 2010 to 2020, Girardi was systematically stealing millions of dollars from his own clients, people who had already suffered unimaginable tragedy and turned to him for help. Burn victims, families who lost loved ones in plane crashes, people paralyzed in accidents, the most vulnerable people imaginable. He took their settlement money and used it to fund the exact lavish lifestyle viewers watched on RHOBH. The private jets, stolen money. The jewelry, stolen money. The sprawling Pasadena mansion, stolen money. Erica's entire pop music career, her glam squad, her company EJ Global that received over $25 million from Girardi's law firm between 2007 and 2020, all funded with money stolen from clients who trusted him to be their advocate. One of his victims was Joseph Ruigomez, who suffered catastrophic burns as a teenager in the 2010 San Bruno pipeline explosion. Girardi won him an $11 million settlement. Joseph should have been set for life, able to afford the extensive medical care he'd need forever. Instead, Girardi stole the money. "I trusted him too much," Joseph testified at trial. That trust cost him everything. Then there were the families of the 189 people killed when Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea in October 2018. These families were already dealing with unimaginable grief. Girardi was supposed to help them get justice, compensation, closure. Instead, he stole at least $2 million from them to keep funding his Hollywood lifestyle. Federal prosecutors said he re-victimized people who had lost their loved ones in a horrific tragedy. How did he do it? He'd negotiate settlements, then lie to clients about the terms. He'd claim the money hadn't arrived yet. He'd invent fake requirements, bogus tax obligations, made up judicial authorizations, anything to delay payment. And when clients pressed him, he'd give them just enough to keep them quiet while he pocketed millions. It was a Ponzi scheme built on human suffering. Prosecutors revealed Girardi spent over $25 million on Erica's company alone. He kept a girlfriend on the side, paying her $20,000 monthly. He collected exotic cars, owned multiple homes, lived like royalty. All while burn victims and grieving families waited for money that was rightfully theirs. His CFO, Christopher Kamen, was equally culpable, embezzling enough to buy homes including one in the Bahamas, where he planned to flee when it all collapsed. He owned a company that rented portable stripper poles. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Girardi's scheme finally unraveled in late 2020 when the Lion Air case came to light. Erica filed for divorce in November 2020, a move many believe was a sham to protect their assets from victims seeking restitution. The timing was certainly suspicious. In August 2024, after claiming he had Alzheimer's and wasn't competent to stand trial, Girardi was found guilty on 4 counts of wire fraud. In June 2025, at age 86, he was sentenced to 87 months in federal prison, ordered to pay $2.3 million in restitution, and fined $35,000. He'll be 92 when he's released. Girardi didn't just steal money, he destroyed people's faith in justice itself. And Erica, she's still on Real Housewives, still performing, still claiming she knew nothing. She was dismissed from lawsuits in 2022, though the bankruptcy trustee is still pursuing $25 million from her companies. She spent years on the show deflecting, obfuscating, playing victim, while actual victims watched her live lavishly on their money. The show made it into a storyline, entertainment, scandal 4, Scandoval. Not all scandals involve federal crimes, but some are so explosively messy they fundamentally alter the reality TV landscape. Enter Scandoval, the Vanderpump Rules cheating scandal that became a cultural phenomenon and led to the complete reboot of one of Bravo's flagship shows. Tom Sandoval and Ariana Madix were together for 9 years. They survived his cheating accusations with Kristen Doute, weathered countless Vanderpump Rules dramas, bought a house together, and were seen as the show's most stable couple. Viewers watched them grow up together on screen. And the entire time, for at least 7 months, Sandoval was carrying on a secret affair with their close friend and co-star Raquel Leviss. The timeline is sickening. In August 2022, while Raquel was on a girls' trip, she left early to attend a guys' night, where she and Sandoval talked until sunrise. Their first hookup happened shortly after. By fall 2022, Sandoval admitted he was seeing Raquel as often as I could, and FaceTiming her constantly while Ariana was in the same house, oblivious. The most gut-wrenching detail? In September 2022, Ariana's grandmother died. While Ariana was at the funeral in Florida, Sandoval and Raquel had sex in the house Sandoval shared with Ariana, in her home, during her grandmother's funeral. Raquel later admitted this at the reunion, saying it was the one story we agreed on getting straight because it was a really bad look. They didn't care. The affair continued for months. Sandoval fell deeper, telling Schwartz in January 2023 he was in love with Raquel. Schwartz described Raquel as Sandoval's heroine and said he was infatuated, but Sandoval kept procrastinating on breaking up with Ariana, continuing to live a double life while planning a future with Raquel. It all came crashing down on March 1st, 2023. During one of Sandoval's band performances, Ariana picked up his phone after it fell out of his pocket. She found an intimate video of Raquel. The affair was exposed. Ariana ended the relationship immediately. By March 3rd, TMZ broke the story and Scandoval was born. The fallout was nuclear. Sandoval's band performance that night was picketed by furious fans. He initially apologized only to Schwartz and his business partners, not mentioning Ariana at all. When he finally issued a fuller apology days later, it was too little, too late. Raquel was physically attacked by Shiana Shea, suffering injuries that required her to file a restraining order. Bravo turned the cameras back on immediately, filming the aftermath for the remainder of season 10. Raquel checked herself into a mental health facility for months after the reunion, citing the immense public hatred and psychological toll. But here's the truly dark part. Raquel later revealed in a lawsuit that Sandoval had recorded intimate videos of her without her knowledge or consent. When Ariana found the video on his phone, she immediately deleted it, but the violation had already occurred. Raquel accused Sandoval of revenge porn, eavesdropping, and invasion of privacy. The affair wasn't just emotionally devastating, it allegedly involved criminal behavior. The scandal captivated America. Scandoval trended for weeks. Ariana was invited to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The show got an Emmy nomination. Sandoval and Raquel both tried to control the narrative through podcasts and interviews, but the damage was irreparable. By May 2023, just 2 months after the affair became public, Sandoval and Raquel split. She later rebranded herself, going back to her birth name Rachel, and left the show entirely. Sandoval remained, becoming one of the most hated men in reality TV. The ultimate consequence? After 12 seasons, Vanderpump Rules underwent a complete cast reboot. The show that had followed this friend group for over a decade couldn't survive the toxicity Scandoval created. In November 2024, Bravo announced the entire main cast would be replaced for season 12. The affair didn't just end relationships, it ended an era. Scandal 5. Phaedra Parks. Some scandals involve fraud or infidelity. This one involved a lie so malicious, so potentially life-destroying, that it cost Phaedra Parks her job and permanently fractured Real Housewives of Atlanta. Phaedra and Kandi Burruss were once close friends. Best friends, even. They supported each other through marriages, divorces, business ventures, and personal struggles. But during season 9, something shifted. Phaedra was going through a messy divorce from Apollo Nita, who was in prison for fraud. She was vulnerable, defensive, and according to Kandi, looking for someone to blame. That's when Phaedra told Porsha Williams a vicious lie, that Kandi Burruss and her husband Todd Tucker were planning to drug Porsha and sexually assault her in their alleged sex dungeon. Read that again. A false accusation of planned rape and drugging. This wasn't shade. This wasn't typical Housewives drama. This was an allegation of serious criminal sexual violence, broadcast on national television, about a woman with a public sex toy business whose entire brand could be destroyed by such a rumor. Porsha, believing her friend Phaedra, repeated the rumor at various times during the season. The tension built and built until the season 9 reunion, when Andy Cohen pressed Porsha on where she heard this information. Porsha broke down and revealed, Phaedra Parks told her, the room exploded. Kandi was furious and devastated. This was the woman she'd considered her closest friend, spreading a rumor that could destroy her reputation, her businesses, her marriage, and her freedom if anyone believed it. When Andy confronted Phaedra, she tried to deflect, claiming she repeated what someone told her, and that producer Carlos King was her source. But she had no evidence, no proof, nothing. Phaedra admitted spreading the rumor, but claimed she didn't know it wasn't true. That defense meant nothing. The damage was done. Kandi's famous "the lies, the lies, the lies" gif comes from this exact moment, her screaming in disbelief at Phaedra's betrayal. Bravo acted swiftly. Phaedra Parks was fired after season 9. Andy Cohen later confirmed that none of the other women wanted to have anything to do with her. Her own castmates wanted her gone. Porsha eventually apologized, and she and Kandi slowly rebuilt their friendship over several years, though it remains fragile. But Phaedra, Kandi has made it crystal clear, there will never be reconciliation. In a 2023 interview, Kandi said, "I don't owe her shit, and I would say that to anybody. Not a motherfucking thing. She will never get shit from me. You can't defend yourselves against blatant liars or people who are so spiteful that will make up anything to tear you down and then hide." When asked if she'd leave Real Housewives if Phaedra returned, Kandi's answer was simple. No, she wouldn't stay. And true to form, when Phaedra returned as a friend of in 2024 for season 16, Kandi had already exited the show after 14 seasons. This scandal changed RHOA fundamentally. The show lost its organic energy. The friendships felt manufactured, and the accusations crossed a line from entertainment into dangerous territory. It proved that reality TV lies can have real-world consequences. Kandi runs a sex toy business. A false rape rumor could have destroyed everything she built. She calls RHOA a sinking ship and acts like she's above it all. But viewers remember, Kandi remembers, and some betrayals can never be forgiven. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a larger problem, reality television, that prioritizes drama and ratings over ethics, safety, and accountability. Teresa Giudice served less than a year for defrauding banks out of millions and returned to television as a star. Jen Shah joked about destroying elderly victims while filming her lavish lifestyle for our entertainment. Tom Girardi stole from burn victims and plane crash families, while his wife flaunted the proceeds on camera. Scandoval filmed intimate videos without consent. Phaedra spread rape allegations as a storyline. And Bravo filmed it all, turned it into episodes, sold ads against it, nominated itself for awards. Multiple cast members have spoken out about toxic work environments, encouraged alcohol consumption, manipulation by producers, and the psychological toll of being villainized for entertainment. Bethany Frankel, Nene Leakes, Caroline Manzo, and others have accused Andy Cohen and Bravo of fostering unhealthy conditions. The reality reckoning is real. These shows have consequences. Russell Armstrong died by suicide, allegedly due to financial pressure from maintaining a TV lifestyle. Mental health crises are filmed and exploited. Criminal behavior is entertainment until the arrests happen. These scandals didn't just change Bravo, they exposed what it's always been. A machine that chews up real people and spits out storylines. Consequences be damned. As long as we keep watching, they'll keep filming. As long as ratings matter more than responsibility, the next scandal is already being filmed. The real question is, how much is too much? And will we ever stop watching long enough to demand better?